So as somebody who's made millions upon millions of dollars on the internet, I want to talk about 3 simple steps to making $10,000 a month online in your 20s. Whether you're just getting started in the entrepreneurship space and you don't really know where to go next, or you're an existing entrepreneur that just wants to put some meat behind your growth and have something cement to work with. This video is going to be really valuable today because I've distilled 3 major lessons that I've learned over the 4.5-year long career that I've had, and all the mistakes I've made, all the successes that I've had, all the millions of dollars I've made and lost, made for my clients, and everything kind of all into one cohesive little message. Now, these are going to be sort of high-level life lessons, more philosophical things. They're not going to really give you the meat of exactly like do this, then do this, then do this, and here's how exactly to, start a business that can make 10,000. This is going to be lessons that I've learned that if you apply them to whatever business you're going to start, you can probably go much faster. But if you want that just like step by step, do this, then do this, then do this, I've linked in the description one of the most highly rated videos on my channel that I get messages about and positive responses from. I've linked it, and it just shows you exactly what business I would start if I were just beginning from zero again. And so I really just walk you through the exact system I use to generate $10,000 to $20,000 a month on the internet at the age of about 19 years old. So let's get right into the video today. I want to share the 3 simple steps to making $10,000 a month online in your 20s. The very first thing that I want to talk about today is crucial. And it's essentially the idea of focusing on one single vehicle. We live in a super noisy world. There's all kinds of gurus and new information experts and people guiding you in different directions. The reality is pretty much everything they're talking about does work. You just have to pick one vehicle to ride. You see, when you're getting a plane off the ground and trying to get it up into the air, it requires actually more speed to get off the runway than it does to maintain flight. So when you're just getting started, if you're chasing multiple rabbits, you're cutting your speed in half and you're not going to catch any of those rabbits, as the popular saying goes. You got to pick one thing and say, for the next 2 to 3 years, this is all I'm doing. One of my earliest mentors told me, you don't even know if the business that you're running is worth sticking in or not until you've sold $1 million in whatever that industry is. When he told me this, it really raised my standards and helped me realize that I was thinking too small and I was quitting too early. The logic tends to go that the more you try, the more you'll learn, the more likely it is for you to succeed, right? And that sort of works in theory, but in practice, it doesn't work at all because it sort of taints the natural learning process of learning from mistakes, applying those lessons that you've learned, learning from successes, and doubling down on what made those successes happen. That's sort of just the natural human learning process. And when you're working on multiple projects all at once, you can't quickly take the lessons you're learning and apply them to your daily behavior to move something quicker forward. And then you mix this with how many like TikTok influencers and Instagram influencers and YouTube influencers and people spreading messages about new strategies or new techniques that work. And it's just ridiculously hard to stay focused on one thing, but you have to do yourself the favor of cutting out all the noise and picking one single vehicle until you are at $10,000 a month profit after expenses, after tax and everything. I promise you it's the best decision you'll make. One of my friends that I helped get started online, this is about 3 years ago, I got him to $20,000 a month in total volume in 12 months. And he was stuck between one business model, another business model, and another business model. And I just told him, dude, literally just go online, go to a random number generator, pick a business model and go all in with it. So assign each business model a number, click randomize, and go with the one that the randomizer tells you to go with. You're honestly better off doing that than you are intellectualizing and thinking and trying to figure out the perfect one in your head before you even move. And I see this happen to all kinds of people, and then especially all the pressure that people are putting on you to succeed and how obviously successful some of these internet-based influencers are and how much psychological damage that does to you. It just taints your natural learning and creative process. Dude, you just got to pick one thing, go all in with it, and stick with it until you succeed. So when we talk about the second step, it's probably as important as the first, probably the same level of importance as the first. And this is the simple idea of picking mentors or knowledge or advice that is just in time, not just in case. Let me explain sort of what I mean. So if you're going to be building a business or doing anything that's hard, you're going to run into problems. And really, most people, they try to cram their heads with a bunch of information and they try to get all the information in their head and then they move. My challenge to you is to think, what is the most immediate next problem I'm facing right now? Which, by the way, if you're not making sales or you're not signing clients or you're not making money, that's the first one. If you don't have a business model, that's the first one. If you don't even know where to start, that's the first one. So you got to figure out what is the most pressing, most immediate next need, and who is an expert on that, or what book can I read, or what program can I buy, or whatever that gives me that next step. You know, the public education system, college, and the way that we've been educating the public for decades now has really emphasized this sort of cram your brain with all this information, which I call just in case learning. So you learn a bunch of things just in case you need them in the future. This has some merit because it helps you sort of build your paradigm, your philosophy, your worldview, which can quite help you with key decisions throughout your life, but it doesn't even come close to the power of actively attempting to do something and then learning what's next along the way. You know, I'm reminded of myself when I was 14 years old. I got really into coding and building computers and all this really nerdy stuff. And I would be like coding and designing applications, and once I ran into like an issue in the code, I would Google that error code, and then on some forum somebody would have a solution to it, and then I would just use the solution. You know, nowadays, because information is completely free and you can learn anything, what's more important is your intention and what you're trying to do. And then having the willingness to ask the key questions at specific junctures when you're facing specific problems. So for example, my very first online coaching business, I helped people start and grow wedding photography businesses, and particularly people who had existing wedding photography businesses. I showed them how to market them on the internet. That was my very, very first sort of business, at least online business. Before that, I was a photographer. And the first problem I had was making content. So I bought this like $300 like how to make YouTube videos course, and I just kind of followed what it said, and I got pretty good at that. And I made like $1 to $2 grand a month selling like little things. And then the next problem I had was sales, because I knew that if I got on the phone with somebody, I could maybe make them a bigger offer because there's more trust in an actual interaction with somebody versus just sending them to like a link in the description. So I bought this sales program. It was like $2,500, but I bought it. I did everything it told me to do to adjust my sales, follow the script and everything. I started landing like $2,000 to $3,000 deals. And fast forward to recently, you know, I'm investing crazy amounts of money into specific problems to help me run my companies better from specific experts that apply specific solutions to specific problems. And that's the just-in-case learning philosophy. You don't fill your head with knowledge and then move. You move and then you find the experts who can fill the gaps that you're facing. And I gotta say, this one simple philosophical change has led to the millions of dollars that I've made in my career, because I simply have the ability to move, and I have the confidence to move despite some of that lack of inner conviction about my movements, and then allow the walls I bang up into to kind of teach me lessons and force me to ask the right questions to figure out what the next sort of movements should be. So now I wanna move on to step 3 of 3, and this has to be the most important facet of this entire video, and I want you to listen very carefully, because if you don't do this, then everything else I've told you so far, and even all the free advice that I've given on my channel just trying to help people build successful businesses, is just not going to apply to you, and you might as well just quit now. And this is the idea of moving into a season of misbalance. And let me talk about this for a second. Our culture is obsessed with the concept of balance. It wants you to live a balanced lifestyle and be balanced in your priorities. And friends and family, I remember when I was just getting started, would tell me things like, oh, don't forget what's important. And it sounds good on the surface, but my friend, it's your life, and you get to decide what's important to you. You get to decide what your priorities are, and you get to move into a season of misbalance and make your primary, top, utmost focus above anything else building a 6-figure business. And you can decide to do that for yourself. In the short term, I'm talking like the 4 to 8 month term, maybe 12-month term, you're gonna have to sacrifice certain friendships, even a little bit of health, which sounds really counterintuitive to say, some sleep, some peace of mind, and some of that natural relaxation you maybe got on weekends at one point. But I promise you that if you're willing to sacrifice 1 year, maybe even 2 years with that sort of misbalance, you can rebalance things at a new level. I had my very first 6-figure, so $100,000 in profit in a single month with my online consulting business. I was like 20 or 21. I think I was 21. That month, I think I worked harder than I even knew I was capable of. I can't even find the words. I think I did like 12-hour days every single day, excluding Sundays. I've never worked a Sunday. And at the end of that month, I felt 2 things. I felt deep, intense gratification and a feeling of achievement and something that I could just be so proud of that I'd achieved. But I also felt another feeling, which I think you'll feel at the end of your like sacrifice and misbalance seasons. And that's kind of realizing the little things that worked and all the little leveraged decisions and actions that I did that weren't that hard, but that pushed the needle forward. So I've found, and what I'm trying to say is you have to really push and do a lot and try a lot and work like hell to get this thing off the ground. But then you'll find little things that really, really work that you realize, oh, that's actually not that hard to do. But if I hadn't gone all in and had this season of misbalance, I wouldn't have found that little thing. So for example, back when I had my marketing consulting business, like a little simple thing that sounds simple enough, but I just realized it worked really well, was just calling my existing clients and saying, hey, you know, I'm offering 20%. If you're happy with your service, if you send somebody, I'll give you 20% of their payment. And like that sounds simple enough. But like if I hadn't been in this mindset of I'm going to do everything it takes to get there, I wouldn't have tried that. And because I wouldn't have tried it, I wouldn't have realized how simple it is to grow my income. So I hope that makes sense. It's almost like, it's like that concept of like throwing stuff at a wall to see what sticks, and then what sticks you just keep throwing, right? But the reality is most people throw like one thing at the wall every day. I was throwing like 30 things at the wall every day for like 2 years. And so I just want you to get comfortable with that season of misbalance and that season of not even necessarily having a lot of clarity of what is the most important thing, just trying a lot of things and seeing what works for you. Listen, if you want that clarity of exactly what to do, the exact steps to go from zero on the internet to $10,000 to $20,000 a month in income, and this won't work for everybody, but it will work for the committed few, you can check out that video that I linked in the description that kind of talks about the step-by-step game plan of the exact business model that I used to sort of get off the ground initially. So hopefully this has been a valuable video for you. This has been the 3 sort of simple steps to, you know, your first $10,000 a month online in your 20s. I believe that anybody who decides to do this can do it, but it takes making the commitments that I've asked you to make in this video today. Pick one vehicle and commit to it until you're at $10,000 a month, okay? Get just-in-time information and sort of just throw away just-in-case information for a minute. Start moving and then ask the right questions as you go. And the last thing is step into a season of misbalance. It's okay, you know? You're your only judge. If other people think that, you know, you're being misbalanced or they have things to say, you know, you can take that, you know, with strong, you know, broad shoulders and say, look, this is what I'm doing and I'm doing it for me. So if this video has been valuable for you today, hope you've taken something away from it. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and I'll see you in the next video.